Deputy Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, Narend Singh, has officially opened the 10th National Environmental Compliance and Enforcement Lekgotla at the Ukhahlamba-Drakensberg World Heritage Site in KwaZulu-Natal. Now, this multi-stakeholder event brings together the Environmental Management Inspectorate, also known as the Green Scorpions. The Lekgotla comprises of provincial and local authorities and other critical role players. This is expected to put environmental crime in the spotlight as South Africa strengthens compliance and global partnership. To take this discussion further, we're now joined via video link by Francis Craigie, Chief Director, Enforcement Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon, Francis. So just talk to us then about, what this conference is expected to tackle. I mean, climate change, as we know it, is one of the biggest threats to the environment. Just unpack this transnational environment crime and how it is likely to impact our natural resources.
Great, thank you, and very good afternoon to everyone. So every 2 years, the Green Scorpions get together in what we call our National Lekgotla, which is really important because, environmental compliance and enforcement is something that cuts across national, provincial and local level. So we have Green Scorpions sitting at all levels of government, and it is critical to bring all those role players together twice a year to really look at the efforts that we've made to deal with environmental crime and to focus in on those emerging threats and those really big issues for South Africa for the next 2 years in order to try and deal with those issues. As you said, from a global perspective, we're obviously dealing with issues around wildlife trafficking. That's a big issue in terms of syndicated crime and biodiversity species within South Africa, both rhino horn, plant species, succulents, leaving South Africa for the Far East illegally. So that is obviously one of the big issues from a transnational crime perspective. But as you mentioned, climate change cannot be forgotten. And so if we're going to deal with climate change effectively here at home, we need to ensure that there's good monitoring of the industries here in South Africa. They need to comply to the laws, and we need to enforce against them if they're not complying to the laws. I think that the other thing from an international perspective is the movement of waste and the movement of chemicals into and out of South Africa. And there's obviously that issue that we also need to take note of and support the Border Management Authority and other authorities to deal with some of those other transnational issues.
I mean, just bringing it back home in as far as some of the discussion points, to what extent might the illegal use of banned pesticides in households following the rise in foodborne illnesses and deaths linked to spaza shops throughout the country be featured during this time? Because as we've heard from our previous speaker, this is something of grave concern, particularly because some of these pesticides are a hazard not only to our human life, but also to the environment at large.
Correct. So it will definitely come up in discussions, I think, particularly because we are dealing with this issue at the moment. I think the difficulty we have as environmental management inspectors is the regulation of these pesticides actually falls outside of our mandate. So the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Health, they're the ones that regulate it and do compliance and enforcement, but we are definitely there to support them. So, from an adjoints perspective, we will come together within the enforcement work stream that is made up of those departments I just mentioned, as well as the police, small business, etc., and the EMIs will also support what is happening around the spaza shops. We obviously need to also look at the issue of waste management. So as soon as we start confiscating these pesticides, from people that are not using them correctly, we would need to ensure that they are properly disposed of. And so our department would also be very supportive of the efforts that are being made through those confiscations and make sure that those pesticides pesticides are then properly disposed of. We'll also, a couple of years ago, we did quite a big operation around going to a lot of the storage facilities for these pesticides to make sure that they are stored correctly and legally. And I think another operation around this will be required in order to make sure, they're not necessarily those that have gotten into the illegal market yet, but just to make sure that what is being used and what is being stored within South Africa has come in legally and is being dealt with in a proper way. But yes, we're part of the collaborative and joint effort to try and assist with this issue.
I want to talk now about the effectiveness of the green scorpions over the years and the progress that has been made, particularly when we start talking about, enforcement of some illegal crimes that are still, or crimes rather, that are still happening, especially when it comes to attending to pollution, which impacts air quality, illegal waste disposal and land degradation. I mean, you see some very big companies reneging on some of their targets too, and not really enforcing where they should be. Are you seeing any improvement there?
Look, I think we obviously today specifically looked back at the past financial year in terms of the work that we've been doing. And what we saw is that there has been quite a significant increase on our side in terms of inspections. That means that we are seeing quite a lot more proactive inspections happening from the green scorpions. And what we're also interestingly seeing within certain sectors is a decrease in the non-compliance detected during those inspections. So within certain sectors, we are in fact seeing an increase in compliance, which luckily then means that we can focus our kind of scarce resources in other areas. So yes, we are seeing some improvements, particularly from some of those bigger industries. But unfortunately, what is pervasive across the country and what we highlighted today is pollution from sewage. And that is from wastewater treatment works operated by municipalities that are not operating them properly. They're in contravention of conditions. Also, as you mentioned, waste management has become a serious issue where landfill sites operated again by municipalities are not complying to the licenses that have been issued by them. So we're busy in discussions as we speak, actually looking at different approaches to try and deal with these issues, because despite us taking quite harsh enforcement action, getting convictions through criminal sanctions, what we tend to see is hefty fines against those municipalities, orders for them to use that money in order to fix the treatment works, but we don't see much improvement on the ground. And so we really need to look for some alternative strategies to deal with this. We may need to start actually arresting some of the municipal managers. But yeah, those types of things, unfortunately, we're not seeing a real big impact where we would like to, and we're seeing how we can deal with that over the next 2 years.
Probably also a discussion point then over this couple of days in the Lekgotla. But thank you so much for your time on the program. Francis Craigie is the Chief Director, Environment Enforcement Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment.